Hi guys, so today I'm here at Louth VolksWorld with two very special hot hatches. We have the VW Golf R and the Audi S3. Now these two cars have exactly the same engine and same chassis, but they're completely different experiences. So we're going to see which one is better. So let's have a look around. Now, if you want to watch the standalone Audi S3 review, click here, and for the Golf R with a Revo Stage 1 too, click here. But for the comparison, we have the Golf R. Now this is the Mark 7.5, so it is the facelift, but normally they would have 296 brake horsepower and 300 Nm of torque. So this one has just 10 horsepower more. As well as stylish looks, it's got all the creature comforts inside, like some really nice Golf seats there. Your touchscreen as well with Apple CarPlay and the embossed R logo to make you remember you're in the R. As well as this one being a 5-door, it's got 3 really good seats in the back, perfect for adults, and a 7-speed DSG auto and 4Motion as well. Now you've got that really nice sporty Golf steering wheel, your digital display there with your speed limit, etc., and also a really good sized boot. So like any hot hatch, you can still have your weekend away. Now the Audi S3 has the same 2-litre 4-cylinder turbocharged engine. Now this one does have 296 brake horsepower, 380 Nm of torque because it is the pre-facelift. But you did go for the facelift version like the Golf, you get exactly the same power and stats. Now the 0 to 60 time in both cars is a really reasonable 4.7 seconds, and with the S-Tronic 7-speed twin clutch, your gear changes are absolutely seamless. Now this does have the additional option of the Super Sport seats, which are very comfortable and add that bit of class, whilst all of Audi's S3 touches like the steering wheel, and also these really cool dials with the boost system. Again, if you had the facelift, you would have the digital dash as well, and you also have the Quattro, which is the equivalent to 4Motion. Again, you have all your creature comforts and even a cool little pop-up screen like this, meaning you got your sat nav, telephone, etc. as well. And unlike the Golf's race system, this one has a little click button here where we can put it into dynamic, which basically does the same thing as well. Also being a 5-door, you have 3 seats in the back as well, meaning you can fit 5 adults quite comfortably. Maybe not as much room as the Golf, but again, a really reasonable boot size. So let's take the S3 out first. But my favourite thing about the S3 is that it's actually a proper key and turn, which makes it, again, more of a driver's car. So starting off with the S3, now it's the same engine, so it's a 2-litre 4-cylinder turbocharged engine. This one, because it's not the facelift, is producing 296 brake horsepower compared to the Golf R, which is the facelift. But if you get the facelift version of the S3, it's going to be exactly the same power, 306. So we're not going to look too much into that. You can feel the boost kick in, so you do have a little boost gauge, but it's been recommended never actually go to the full boost gauge because you're not getting that enjoyment afterwards. And I can see what they mean with that. It's kind of the mid area is the sweet spot of this car. Now the S3 is actually the heavier car, so it's 1,565 kilograms. So it's about 80 kilograms heavier with the same power. So whether that makes a difference or not, we're going to have a bit of a feel to see if it feels more luggish. But so far the steering feels incredibly light, there isn't much feedback. So whether that's going to have a bit of a play in it, we're going to see whether the Golf is similar. The difference with the Audi S3 is it isn't the top of the range for this model. Now you can get the RS3, which again adds, I believe, about 90 extra horsepower. It's got an extra cylinder and just gives you that bit more of a progression. Whereas the Golf R is the top of the VW's range, so that is as good as it's going to get for VW. So I think with the S3 is kind of a nice kind of introduction into performance cars because you can still grow into it and then upgrade to the RS3. Whereas I think with the Golf R, there's nothing more you can do with it apart from just modify it. So Audi has its own 4-wheel drive system called Quattro, compared to the VW's 4Motion. Now, they nearly work identical, so they all have the same idea of torque veterans, so sending power to the inside wheel when you're turning to stop understeer, being able to be predominantly front-wheel drive, but send power to the rear as it's needed and constantly analysing all the conditions. But I feel like the Audi Quattro system does just kind of edge over VW. I don't know why, but there's a lot more power when you're coming out of a corner that you can put down, whereas the Golf doesn't feel so much. I do think the S3 does sound that bit more aggressive. The farts on the up change are really nice and it's just a bit more grunty. Now we do have a 7-speed S-tronic gearbox here, so again it's still twin clutch, but we've got that little bit more of an edge at the top end. 0 to 60 time of this is stated to be 4.7 seconds. Now we are damp, but let's see whether this boost is as impressive as we think. So to do this properly, we have to put the gearbox into sport, everything into dynamic. We're going to get straightened up. Ooh. Right, let's see how this boost performs. You ready? Little bit of traction issues because we had traction off. But yeah. Jesus Christ. Yeah, when they say Audi S3s are about straight line speed, they're right. That was epic. So now it's time to see what the Golf's about and see which one I actually prefer. Got all the creature comforts, so things like heated seats, which we're going to turn on, heating, Apple CarPlay, all of the same jazz that the facelift S3 will also have, so things like the digital display as well. So we're not going to compare that too much because obviously there is also £7,000 difference between this Golf R and that S3 because of the year difference. So we're going to kind of ignore that a little bit and focus on actually how the performance are, because the engine's still the same, it's just a little bit tuned up with an extra 10 horsepower. So whether it makes a huge difference, we will see. Now with this being the facelift, obviously we have some filters and that in the exhaust, so it's not as loud on startup, but it's all about the drive, so let's see how we get on. So now the initial suspension on this doesn't feel too solid, to be fair. I mean, just like how Audi has the option of magnetic ride, this has adaptive chassis suspension as well, and it changes with the mode. So we're in race now, which is one of the hardest settings, and I think in terms of ride quality, you'll probably see a little bit from how much the camera jerks. This is weirdly softer, and I don't quite understand it because it handles better, and usually a harsher suspension is all the right based around handling. So, but actually, on acceleration, this does sound throatier, but whether that's the artificial noise pumped into the cabin or not, it probably is, but it doesn't sound bad. From what I can hear as well, whereas the S3 sort of farts more on changing up, changing down, this kind of gurgles, it kind of has a do-do-do, which sounds really, really cool. Now the Golf feels a bit more punchier, so when you do put your foot down, it's a bit more kind of, I feel like that's the best way to explain it. It kind of pushes you back quite gradually, but it's very impressive. Whereas the Audi kind of, it goes, and then it goes with the boost system. So they are actually very different in the way the manufacturers have produced the power and how the power is put out there. Which I prefer, I'm not sure yet. My favourite thing about the Golf R, which might just put it above the rest, is the fact it's got a race mode. So for Audi, you've got dynamic, individual. For VW, they have put normal, eco, and race. And if that doesn't define a hot hatch, I don't know what does. I feel like with the Golf R, there's a lot more mid-corner fun than you find with the S3. So you can still put the power out, maybe not quite as much because you're having a bit more power through the mid. I feel like on the Audi, on the exit of the corner is where you can put your speed down most. But in the Golf, the whole corner is actually really fun. So you can enter with a little bit more speed, you can start to pick it up mid-corner, and then you can go for it. The biggest difference with the VW as well is the steering's a bit heavy. You get that little bit more feedback. Although it's not quite as much as what I'd like, it's still better than the Audi. It's not as wishy-washy. There's a bit more direction to it when you are steering. thing! I love these things, honestly. I think you can see by the way I push back as well, there's a bit more aggression to this. Now this is a 7-speed DSG, so dual clutch transmission. Again, flappy paddles are tiny, and I don't know why they keep doing this on performance cars, because you need the extra sort of room, because when you are trying to change gear, when you're having a spirited drive, they're so small you can easily miss them. Whether it's down to age again, so we're being a little bit kind of on the fence with this. The brakes feel a lot firmer in this, so it seems to stop that little bit quicker. The brake pedal is a lot sort of responsive. And again, it might just be the fact it's a newer car, so the brakes are just a bit newer and better and in development. So I don't want to comment too much on that, but overall, the brakes do feel better in this. Now in terms of taking one on track, because I think the Golf does handle that bit better, you actually don't see many S3s on a track day, but you do see a fair few Golf Rs. So whether that's saying something, maybe in terms of the people that buy them, it tends to be maybe someone a bit, I dare say classier, but kind of a bit more adultish, that's using them as a daily car and just for that odd bit of enjoyment. Whereas a Golf R, they want to extract everything from a car, and which is maybe why you see more on track. But I think if I was to take one to the track, it'd be the Golf R. So one thing we've kind of ignored, we focus very on performance, but looks. I feel like both the S3 and the Golf R kind of are very understated. Now, Audi and VW, they've added some touches to upgrade them from the standard A3 and Golf, but I feel like it's not a huge amount. If you know your cars, you're gonna know the difference. If you don't, it's just another Golf, it's just another A3. So in that respect, they both do look great, and I like the black editions on this Golf, and I know with some of the S3, if you get, for example, the black edition, looks fantastic, especially if you can get the honeycomb grille. I think you have to make them your own, so doing things like getting a splitter, maybe changing the wing mirror caps, blacking parts of the chrome bits out. I think little things like that that are so easily done on these cars because they're so accessible really makes it your own, and you kind of pick and mix them essentially. VW have done with this Golf R and how they've done the power delivery of the engine and everything, but it really is the perfect hot hatch. It's the all-rounder, it ticks every box. Yes, you won't be able to get the back end out on like on an M140, but directly with the S3, I'm being swayed. So that is the end of our S3 versus Golf R video. Again, same engine, same chassis. Yes, there's a difference in years, but we're kind of trying to ignore that a little bit and really stay kind of mutual with it. I think you can already tell what my verdict's going to be, and I don't know how they've done it and what they've done with it, but VW are far superior with this. The Golf R is a lot more fun and a lot more of a playful driver's car, whereas the S3 is a bit more adultish, respectful, and if you're just cruising around but you want that little bit of power at your foot, that's where your S3 is going to be sort of in its happiest place. But with the Golf R, if you want that spirited drive and something you can really have fun with on those corners, this is your car. So my verdict is both amazing cars in their own right, completely different audiences, but for me, I'd be driving away in this.
And also a huge thank you to Louth VolksWorld for letting me loose in both of these cars. Make sure you guys check them out in the link below as well.
But you guys know the drill. To make my journey your journey, like, follow, subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Bye!